One was modifying the human genome.
Yeah, I'm not saying we should. I'm just saying that's the thing would really affect the future.
And next, so a lot of people weren't thinking about these same 5 things when they were in school, particularly humanity on multi-planets at that time.
Sci-fi was certainly thinking about it, but I think at some point we want to make science fiction not fiction forever. And yeah, let's make life multiplanetary and be a spacefaring civilization, be out there among the stars. I think there are things that you have to be excited about the future. Life cannot just be about solving one problem after another. There have to be things that really move your heart and that make you excited to wake up in the morning. And I think becoming a spacefaring civilization is one of those things. If you ask kids anywhere around the world, what are some of the most inspiring things? You can ask a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, anywhere in the world, and they're going to say space exploration is one of those things. And we want to make sure that Apollo is not the high watermark. In fact, you mentioned at one point that you wrote a letter offering to run the Apollo program, I believe.
Yeah,
you would have done a fantastic job. But the point is that the Apollo program was something that was inspiring to everyone around the world. And we don't want the Apollo program to be the high watermark of human exploration. And yeah, I think you want to have some sense that the future is going to be better than the past, that we're going to be out there, going to other star systems, and in a science fiction, non-dystopian story, of which there are not many, but like Star Trek.
Speaking of Star Trek, when I think about you, let's look at Spock from Star Trek here.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Their ongoing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life forms and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before.
So when I think about you, I think about Spock and Captain Kirk, and you're going to take us to places we've never gone before.
Yeah, that's the idea. If we send probes out there, we might find the remains of long-dead alien civilizations. If physics is correct, the universe is about 13.8 billion years old. Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. But at 13.8 billion years, a civilization that even lasted 1 million years is 3 digits past the decimal point. And if you consider human civilization, I date it from like the first writing. So that first writing was the ancient Sumerians, archaic pre-cuneiform, around 5,500 years ago. So that is 1/1,000,000th of Earth's lifespan. That's how long writing has existed. If we were to last as a civilization for 1 million years, that would be incredible. And we would actually probably be in every part of the galaxy. So this causes me to think that where are the aliens? It's the Fermi question. The great physicist, Italian physicist Enrico Fermi, he's like, where are they? Now, a lot of people think there are aliens among us.
There was that movie, Men in Black.
Yeah.
Told us they're among us, and Elvis really went back to his own planet.
Yeah, really a lot of people think there are aliens, but I get asked that a lot. And for some reason, a lot of the same people who think there are aliens among us didn't think we went to the moon, which I'm like, think about that for a second. But I've not seen any evidence of aliens, and SpaceX with the Starlink constellation has roughly 6,000 satellites. And not once have we had to maneuver around a UFO. Okay. So we were like, hey, what's that? Is that an alien? Has occurred never. So I'm like, okay, I don't see any evidence of aliens. And I look at it, if somebody has evidence of aliens it's not just a fuzzy blob, then I'd love to see it, love to hear about it. But I don't think there is, which is actually reason for concern, because you could, if any civilization in the Milky Way, in our galaxy, were to last for 1 million years, even with a speed of travel that's far below the speed of light, like a few % of speed of light, they could easily have explored and colonized the whole galaxy. So they haven't, so why not? I think the answer might be, or perhaps probably is, that civilization is precarious and rare, and that you should really think of human civilization as being like a tiny candle in a vast darkness, and we should do everything possible to ensure that candle does not go out.
Lon, I thought one of the interesting things for the people on X viewing this session, and the people in the audience here, is that maybe I'd give you a few of your quotes and you can comment on them. Okay, let's start with this one. Free speech. Freedom of speech is the bedrock of democracy.
Yeah.
Without it, America ends.
Yes, it's obviously not possible to have democratic elections if people do not have access to the information that would allow them to make the right decision on a candidate or a party. So if speech is constrained in a fundamental way, you just can't expect people to make the right decision or an informed decision, because they are prevented from being informed. I think it's a very foundational element, and I have to say, like, why is freedom of speech the First Amendment? Is because people came from countries where if you spoke freely, you would be imprisoned or killed. That was why they were like, you know what, we should make sure that we got that one. I remember that time when they tried to kill us back in the other country just for saying we didn't like a political candidate. Let's make sure that's okay in America. And so actually, in a lot of parts of the world, you can't really say, most parts of the world, you can't really say what you want to say without some bad consequences. And sometimes people forget, like, why is the Constitution there? The Constitution there is to protect the people from the government. It's to make it hard to change things. That's why the Constitution exists. Yeah. Don't forget about that. Like, don't take it for granted.
Let's try the next quote.
Yeah.
The fundamental error of socialism is shifting capital allocation from highly effective entrepreneurs to astonishingly ineffective government.
I think we'll find hearty agreement in this room. Yeah, I think that this is definitely a stacked deck on that front. But yeah, you'll hear this sort of argument like, oh, we shouldn't have some greedy corporation do it, we should have the government do it. I'm like, actually, the government is just a corporation in the limit. So a government is the corporation with a monopoly on violence. So if you're unhappy with a commercial corporation doing it, you should be actually very unhappy with the government doing it, since it is simply a corporation, the most corporate thing. And you can actually easily get more sway in a company than you can, the outcome of a company, than you can in the government. Everyone's experienced this going to the DMV. Have you said, do you want the DMV at scale? Probably not, okay?
All right,
the government is the DMV at scale.
Let's try another one. Discriminate on the basis of anything other than merit is wrong.
Yeah, I think we do need to have a merit-based system, because as soon as you go down the path of you're going to discriminate on non-merit-based, then where do you stop? Yeah, I think we need to be as rigorous about merit as possible. And while it is, to me that seems like it's a foundational thing. Again, I also think this room is probably supportive of a merit-based situation. But yeah, that is, I think we should be, not discriminated on anything other than merit.
All right, good. Yeah. I'm happy you agree with yourself.
Exactly. I'm like, wait, who is this guy? He really sounds great.
All right, so let's look at the next one. Regulation and regulatory consistency. Like Gulliver, tied down by thousands of little strings, we lose our freedom one regulation at a time.
Yes. So this is actually a very important point that I think is not talked about enough, that laws and regulations are immortal. They don't die. Humans die, but laws and regulations can last forever. If year after year there are more laws and regulations passed and more regulatory bodies created, eventually everything will be illegal. And that's why you see the California high-speed rail has made a tiny section that doesn't even have rail on it, and for, I don't know, several $1 billion. Because everything's, at this point, California has made almost everything illegal. So you can't make progress. Now, historically, what has cleared away the cobwebs of regulation has been war. Now, we'd prefer not to have a war. So in order to have civilization function without war, you have to actively eliminate laws and regulations. So you have to have basically a garbage collection process for rules and regulations. That is necessary. Otherwise, you get hardening of the arteries, and over time, nothing can get done. The most poignant example that I can think of that happened this week was the sad picture of the California high-speed rail, which is just billions of dollars spent for practically nothing. But it'll only get worse year after year. So we must have a regulatory clearinghouse garbage collection process. This is essential, or civilization comes grinding to a halt.
We used to have sunset, that regulation would sunset. Unfortunately, it's rare today.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about education. The more you can gamify the process of learning, the better. You do not need to tell your kid to play video games.
No.
They will play video games on autopilot all day. So if you make it interactive and engaging, then you can make education far more compelling and far easier to do.
Yeah. So the way education works today is really much like, it's like vaudeville. Before there was radio and TV and movies, you had vaudeville, where every town would have their town play, the town troupe, the sort of acting troupe. And that would be the entertainment. In a big city, you'd have much better players than, say, in a small city. But then along came movies and TV, and then you say and video games, where you take the smartest, best people in any arena, like whether they're acting, writing, directing, special effects. You spend tens of millions, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars creating a great movie or a great video game, and you make it as compelling as possible. Now that crushes vaudeville, crushes. Imagine you're not in New York, imagine you're in Bakersfield, okay? Then you got, instead of Batman being like the Nolan brothers, it's Batman the Bakersfield acting troupe. It wouldn't be as good. That's how teaching works today. What you actually want to have is an interactive learning experience that is as compelling as possible, and you don't actually want a teacher in front of a board doing a vaudeville act. You want it to be engaged, real-time feedback. And then there are a few other principles in teaching. You have to establish relevance, otherwise your mind will want to forget things. So our mind is constantly trying to forget as much as possible. So you'll only remember things if your mind can establish relevance or there's a strong emotional element to it. Otherwise, you're basically going to forget everything. Memory is very expensive from an evolutionary standpoint, so it's trying to forget as much as possible. So when teaching a course, you have to explain to kids why it's important. And then you want to teach to the problem instead of teaching the tools. So what I mean by that is, if you said, here's a car engine. We're gonna try to understand how this car engine works. We're gonna take it apart. So what do we need to do to take it apart? We need a wrench, we need some screwdrivers, we need a hoist and a pulley, and we're gonna take it apart and we're gonna see how it all works. That's engaging. And along the way, you learn about wrenches and screwdrivers and all the tools that are needed. That actually is engaging and compelling. But the way teaching more typically works is we're gonna teach you a course on screwdrivers and a course on wrenches. And you're like, why do I have a course on wrenches? It's not obvious. That would be like, say, a course on calculus without explaining what calculus is used for. Then you forget it. Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of work to do in that area. Let's talk about a non-controversial issue, immigration.
Sure.
Here is Elon on immigration. I'm very much in favor of increased and expedited legal immigration for anyone who is talented, hardworking, and honest. Bizarrely, it's difficult and agonizing slow to immigrate to the U.S. legally, but it's trivial and fast to enter illegally. This obviously makes no sense.
Once again, I agree with that guy. If anyone here has been through the legal